Kyle Henderson guided his cargo ship through the busy space lanes near Vryn Station. The route was familiar to him. He had flown it hundreds of times over the past 5 years. His ship, the Wayfarer, carried medical supplies bound for the outer colonies. It was honest work, and Kyle enjoyed the peace of space travel. His radio crackled with the usual chatter. A Vryn pilot complained about docking fees. A human trader argued over prices for grain shipments. Someone was singing an old Earth song badly. This was normal. Humans had been part of galactic society for 300 years now, and they had made themselves heard everywhere they went. Kyle smiled as he listened to the voices. Humans had spread across the galaxy quickly after first contact. They built trading posts, set up colonies, and joined every organization that would have them. Some aliens found humans annoying. They talked too much, moved too fast, and asked too many questions. But most species had grown used to them. His communication panel beeped. A priority message came through on the encrypted human channel. Kyle frowned. Priority messages were rare. He opened it and read the single line of text. All human vessels and personnel, return to Sol System immediately. Bring everything. Leave nothing behind. Acknowledge and comply. Kyle read it 3 times. There was no explanation. No reason given. Just the order to come home. He checked the sender code. It was genuine, coming directly from Earth Defense Command. This was real. He keyed his radio to the public channel. This is Captain Kyle Henderson of the freighter Wayfarer. Message received. We're going home now. Then he changed course, pointing his ship back toward Earth. Around him, on every frequency, other human voices began to go quiet. One by one, they signed off. Within an hour, the usual human chatter that filled the space lanes had stopped completely. On Vryn Station, Trade Envoy Zix Rath waited in his office. He had a meeting scheduled with the human ambassador, a friendly woman named Patricia who always brought him Earth coffee. She was usually early. Today, she was late. After an hour, Zix Rath walked to the human embassy section. The doors were locked. He peered through the windows. The offices were empty. Not just empty of people, but empty of everything. Desks, computers, personal items, all gone. It looked like no one had ever been there. Confused, he went to the human commercial district on the station. Every shop was closed. Every apartment in the human quarter was vacant. The humans had packed up and left during the night cycle. No one had seen them go. Zix Rath rushed back to his office and sent an urgent message to the council. All humans on Vryn Station have disappeared. Request immediate clarification. End quote. Within hours, similar reports came in from across the galaxy. Every human colony outside the Sol system had been evacuated. Every human ship was turning back toward Earth. Every human outpost was being dismantled and packed up. The humans were leaving, and they were taking everything with them. Ambassador Kelvar of the Galactic Council stood in the main chamber, reading report after report. The council was in an uproar. Representatives from dozens of species all talked at once, demanding answers that no one had. This is unprecedented, said a Threen diplomat. The humans have abandoned hundreds of settlements. What could cause such a sudden withdrawal? There. A pair. Perhaps they have fallen to internal conflict, suggested a Xorvan representative. They are a young species. Maybe they have destroyed themselves. Kelvar did not think so. The withdrawal was too organized, too complete. This was not chaos. This was a planned operation, executed with military precision. But why? He opened a direct communication link to Earth. The connection went through. The Ansible network showed that someone on Earth was listening. But no one answered. This is Ambassador Kelvar of the Galactic Council. We request communication with Earth government representatives. Please respond. Silence. He tried again. Humanity. We have noticed your withdrawal from galactic territories. The Council wishes to understand your intentions. Please respond. Coming. Nothing. For 3 days, Kelvar tried to reach Earth. The connection was always active. Someone was receiving his messages. But the humans would not talk. After 300 years of constant communication, humanity had gone completely silent. The other species in the galaxy did not know what to make of it. Some thought the humans had encountered a plague and were quarantining themselves. Others believed they had found something in deep space that frightened them into retreat. A few thought it was the prelude to some kind of attack, though they could not imagine why or against whom. In the Kreeth sovereignty, Supreme Commander Drax-Ul saw opportunity. The Kreeth had always resented humanity. The humans had expanded too fast, claimed too much territory, and acted with too much confidence for such a young species. The older races should have been shown more respect. If the humans have abandoned their claims, Drax-Ul said to his war council, then that territory is now open. We should move to secure it before others do. His advisors agreed. The Kreeth fleet began to mobilize. They would start with the outlying human stations, the ones furthest from Earth. If the humans responded, they could claim they were simply investigating abandoned property. If the humans stayed silent, well, then the Kreeth would keep taking. Back on Earth, Kyle Henderson brought his ship into orbit among thousands of others. The space around Earth was crowded with returning human vessels. Every colony ship, every merchant craft, every exploration vessel had come home. They floated in perfect formations, waiting. Kyle received new orders. He was to dock at Orbital Station 7 and report for reassignment. When he asked what was happening, he got no answer. Nobody was talking about it on open channels. Whatever was going on, the humans were keeping it to themselves. Nina Torres stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valiant. She watched the returning ships arrive, one after another. She had been a commander in the defense fleet for 12 years, but she had never seen anything like this. Every human in space was coming home. Her admiral, Jake Morrison, had called a meeting of all senior officers. Nina attended via secure video link. Morrison's face was serious. I know you all have questions, he said. I cannot answer most of them yet. What I can tell you is this. We are preparing for a change. Humanity has tried for 3 centuries to earn a place in galactic society through friendship and cooperation. That approach has reached its limit. W. He paused, looking at each officer in turn through the camera. We are going dark. No communication with other species until further notice. Bring everyone home. Secure all assets. And wait for orders. Are we going to war, sir? Asked one of the other commanders. Morrison's expression did not change. We are preparing for whatever comes next. That is all I can say. The meeting ended. Nina returned to her duties, checking weapon systems and running crew drills. Around Earth, the defensive platforms hummed with power. New ships arrived from hidden construction yards, ships that know. 2 weeks passed. The galaxy adjusted to the strange new silence. Trade routes that had depended on human merchants were disrupted. Stations that had housed human populations felt empty. The constant background noise of human communication was gone, and many species found they missed it. The Kreeth sovereignty did not miss it. Supreme Commander Drax-Ul saw the human withdrawal as confirmation of weakness. If the humans were strong, they would have stayed and defended their interests. Instead, they ran home like frightened children. Send the Second Fleet to the human mining colonies in the Perseus Arm, Drax-Ul ordered. Take whatever resources remain. If the humans complain, we will tell them they abandoned the facilities. Salvage rights apply. The Kreeth ships moved in. They found the human mining stations empty but intact. The fusion reactors were still running. The ore processors were shut down but functional. The humans had left in such a hurry that they left valuable equipment behind. Or so the Kreth thought. The Kreth crews moved into the stations and began stripping them for parts. They took the mining equipment, the power generators, the life support systems. They loaded everything onto their cargo ships. It was easy profit, and there were dozens more human stations waiting to be looted. Drax-Ul was pleased. He reported to the Kreth High Council that the operation was proceeding smoothly. The humans are clearly finished as a galactic power, he said. They have retreated to their home system and will likely never emerge again. We should continue to claim their abandoned territories before other species do. The High Council agreed. The Kreth were not a subtle people. They believed in strength and direct action. If the humans were too weak to hold their territory, then the Kreth would take it. That was the way of the galaxy. The Kreth fleet grew bolder. They moved closer to Sol system, taking human outposts in the Kuiper Belt. These were scientific stations and small mining operations. The humans had invested heavily in them. Now they sat empty, ripe for the taking. At one station, a Kreth salvage crew found something interesting. A data core that had not been wiped clean. It contained information about human military assets, or at least what the Kreth thought was that information. They rushed it back to their intelligence division. Kreth analysts studied the data. They saw plans for defense ships, weapon systems, and orbital platforms. The technology seemed advanced but not overwhelming. The numbers were small. Earth apparently had a defense fleet of maybe 200 ships, adequate for protecting the home system, but nothing that could threaten a major power like the Kreth. The humans are defenseless, one analyst reported. Their military is sized for security, not warfare. They have no battle fleets, no strategic weapons, no force projection capability. This information spread quickly through the Kreth military command. It seemed to confirm what they already believed. Humans were traders and explorers, not warriors. Their 300 years in galactic society had been peaceful because they were not capable of anything else. Drax-Ul made his decision. Prepare the main battle fleet. We will move into Sol system itself, not to attack Earth, but to seize the orbital assets around Jupiter and Saturn. Those gas mining platforms are worth billions. If the humans object, we will negotiate from a position of strength. Rupee. Oh, Cess. It was a bold move. But the Kreth saw little risk. The humans were quiet, withdrawn, apparently helpless. The worst they could do was complain to the Galactic Council, and the Council had no enforcement power. The Kreth battle fleet assembled. 300 warships, the pride of the sovereignty. They had plasma cannons, missile batteries, and energy shields based on technology that was 10,000 years old. The Kreth knew how to fight. They had conquered a dozen systems and subjugated 4 other species. They were not afraid of humans. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Kelvar watched these developments with growing concern. He called emergency sessions. He pleaded with the Kreth to show restraint. He tried once more to contact Earth. Humanity. Your territories are under attack. The Kreth sovereignty is claiming your stations and outposts. The Council requests your presence to address this situation. Please respond. For 3 days, nothing happened. Kelvar began to think the humans really had suffered some catastrophe. Maybe their government had collapsed. Maybe they were fighting among themselves. Maybe they truly could not respond. Then a message came back. It was text only, appearing on every Galactic Council communication terminal simultaneously. Just 5 words. We know. We are deciding. Kelvar stared at the message. It raised more questions than it answered. What were they deciding? How to respond? Whether to respond? What did "we know" mean? Had they been watching the Kreth this whole time? He called another council session. Representatives from 30 species gathered in the chamber. The tension was obvious. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. The humans have responded, Kelvar announced. They are aware of the Kreth actions. They are making decisions about how to proceed. What kind of decisions? Demanded the Kreth ambassador. A fierce warrior named Gorthal. The humans have no basis to complain. They abandoned their territory. We are simply claiming what they left behind. You are seizing active installations and resources that belong to humanity, countered the Vryn representative. This is theft. Possibly an act of war. Gorthal laughed. It was an ugly sound. War? With the humans? They do not even have a proper military. They are merchants and scientists. What will they do? Negotiate us to death. Some of the other species laughed with him. But others stayed quiet. They remembered that humanity was young, yes, but they had also spread across the galaxy faster than any other species in recorded history. That kind of expansion required resources, organization, and capability. The Threen ambassador, an old and wise being named Kelith, spoke carefully. Has anyone considered that we may not actually know what humanity is capable of? They have been part of our society for only 300 years. That is nothing. We know what they have shown us, but do we know what they have kept hidden? Hidden? Gorthal scoffed. What could they hide? We trade with them. We visit their stations. We know their technology. Do we? Kelith asked. Or do we know what they choose to share? The question hung in the air. It made some of the representatives uncomfortable. They had assumed that humanity was transparent, open, eager to share everything. But what if that was wrong? What if the friendly, talkative humans had been more careful than anyone realized? On Earth, the decision was being made. The World Council met in a deep bunker beneath the North American continent. Representatives from every human government were present. They had been debating for 2 weeks, and now the time for debate was over. President Karen Mitchell of the United Earth Alliance addressed the chamber. The Kreth have made their intentions clear. They believe we are weak. They believe we will not fight. They are taking our property and threatening our people. The question before us is simple. Do we accept this, or do we respond? To mine. To mine. To mine. To mine. We must respond, said General Jake Morrison. But not with words. Words are what got us here. For 300 years, we have talked and negotiated and tried to be reasonable. The galaxy has mistaken our patience for weakness. If we continue on this path, we will lose everything we have built. What do you propose? Asked a council member from the Asian Coalition. Morrison stood. He was a tall man with gray hair and hard eyes. He had spent 40 years in the military, rising through the ranks during peacetime. He had trained his forces for a war he hoped would never come. Now it was here. Total war, he said simply. Not just against the Kreth forces in our territory, but against the Kreth sovereignty itself. We destroy their fleet. We cripple their military. We make an example so clear that no other species will ever threaten us again. The room erupted in arguments. Some supported Morrison's plan. Others thought it was too extreme. A few wanted to appeal to the Galactic Council one more time. President Mitchell called for order. Let us vote. All in favor of authorizing military action against the Kreth sovereignty. Hands went up around the room. Not everyone voted yes, but the majority did. The decision was made. Morrison nodded. He had been preparing for this since the recall order went out. Every piece was in place. The fleets were ready. The weapons were armed. The soldiers were trained. Humanity had spent 3 centuries building up its strength in secret, hiding their true capabilities behind a mask of friendly commerce. Now that mask would come off. Send the activation codes to all military units, Morrison ordered. Operation Thunderstrike begins in 48 hours. Tell our commanders. No mercy. No quarter. No prisoners. Until the Kreth surrender unconditionally. The orders went out on channels that no alien species knew existed. Human ships throughout Sol System received their assignments. Orbital weapons platforms that had been disguised as scientific research stations revealed their true nature. Hidden shipyards in the outer system opened their bays, releasing vessels that had never been seen by alien eyes. Kyle Henderson, now aboard a warship called Thunderhead, read his orders. He was surprised to learn he was a reserve military officer, activated by authority he had not known existed. His cargo ship had been a cover. He was actually trained for combat operations. So were tens of thousands of other civilians. The humans had hidden their military within their civilian population. Merchant captains were naval officers. Mining operations were actually weapons testing facilities. Research stations were listening posts and strategic planning centers. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. It was about to learn how wrong it had been. Nina Torres received her final briefing. The Valiant and 50 other warships would form the first strike. The Kreeth fleet, near Neptune, never had a chance. One moment, they were loading stolen equipment onto their cargo ships. The next moment, space rippled, and human warships appeared in perfect attack formation. Nina Torres watched from the bridge of the Valiant as her tactical display lit up with targets. 300 Kreeth ships. Scattered and vulnerable. They had been so confident in their superiority that they had not even posted guards or maintained battle readiness. All weapons free, she ordered. Execute Attack Plan Alpha. The Valiant fired first. Her main railgun launched a tungsten rod at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile hit a Kreeth battlecruiser dead center. The ship exploded instantly, torn apart by kinetic energy that no shield could stop. Around her, the other human ships opened fire. Missiles streaked through space, each one guided by advanced targeting systems the Kreeth had never encountered. Energy weapons carved through Kreeth hulls like they were made of paper. Point defense systems shot down every incoming shot the Kreeth managed to fire. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 17 minutes. The human fleet moved through the Kreeth formation like wolves through sheep. Every shot found a target. Every target died. The Kreeth tried to run, but human ships were faster. They tried to fight, but human weapons were stronger. They tried to call for help, but human jamming systems blocked every transmission. When it was over, 300 Kreeth warships had been reduced to debris. Not one had escaped. Not one had managed to damage a human vessel. The humans had not even needed to use their full capabilities. Nina felt sick as she looked at the destruction. So many dead. But she remembered her orders. This was not just about stopping the Kreeth. This was about making sure no one ever threatened humanity again. All ships, form up for transit to Target 2, she said. We have 8 more Kreeth fleets to destroy. The human warships vanished, jumping back into faster-than-light travel. They left the wreckage behind as a message. Anyone passing through this area would see what happened when you attacked humanity. The news spread fast. Within hours, every species in the galaxy knew that humanity had struck back. But the details were confusing. The reports talked about weapons that should not exist. Ships that moved faster than anything in known space. Shields that deflected every attack. Technology that was centuries ahead of what humans were supposed to have. Ambassador Kelvar received the combat reports in his office. He read them 3 times, unable to believe what he was seeing. The humans had not just defeated the Kreeth, they had massacred them without taking a single loss. How is this possible? He asked his aide. Our intelligence said the humans had a small defense fleet. Where did all these warships come from? His aide had no answer. No one did. The humans had apparently been hiding the vast majority of their military power. For 3 centuries, they had shown the galaxy only what they wanted seen. Everything else had been kept secret. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Every representative was present. They all wanted to know the same thing. What were the humans planning to do next? They did not have to wait long for an answer. Every communication network in the galaxy suddenly displayed the same image. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in what looked like a military command center. His uniform was dark and severe. His expression was cold. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Forces. I am broadcasting this message to every government, every military, and every civilian population in known space. Pay attention, because I will only say this once." He paused, letting the weight of his presence sink in. For 300 years, humanity has sought peace with the species of this galaxy. We came to you with open hands and open hearts. We traded fairly. We honored our agreements. We accepted insults and disadvantages because we believed in the possibility of a civilized galactic community. His expression hardened. That belief has been tested. The Kreeth sovereignty chose to interpret our desire for peace as weakness. They invaded our territory. They stole our property. They killed our people. This was a mistake. Morrison gestured, and the image split to show footage of the destroyed Kreeth fleet. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. We have destroyed the Kreeth invasion force completely. Every ship, every crew, eliminated. This is not a negotiation. This is not a police action. This is war. The image returned to Morrison. The United Earth Alliance is now in a state of total war with the Kreeth sovereignty. We will prosecute this war until the Kreeth government surrenders unconditionally. We will accept no peace talks, no mediation, no compromise. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. To the other species of the galaxy, we say this: stand aside. This is between humanity and the Kreeth. Any government that offers aid to the Kreeth will be considered an enemy combatant. Any military force that interferes with human operations will be engaged and destroyed. We do not want a wider war, but we will fight one if we must. Morrison straightened. Some of you are wondering how we developed these capabilities without your knowledge. Some of you are feeling betrayed that we kept secrets. To those species, I say, you kept secrets from us too. Every advanced race has technology they do not share. Every government has military plans they keep hidden. We simply did what you all do. We protected our interests and prepared for threats. But here is what makes us different, he continued. We gave peace an honest try. We spent 3 centuries building friendships and alliances. We meant it when we said we wanted cooperation, but we are not fools. We knew that someday, someone would test us. Someone would see our friendliness as weakness. Someone would push us too far. Oh, the Kreeth pushed. Now they will learn the price. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the Galactic Council chamber was silent. Then everyone started talking at once. The Kreeth ambassador, Gorth Al, was shouting denials and accusations. The Vreen representative was calling for calm. Others were demanding answers or declaring their neutrality. Kelvar sat quietly, thinking. He had known humans for decades. He had traded with them, negotiated with them, even called some of them friends. He thought he understood them. Now he realized he had never truly known them at all. The humans had been wearing a mask. They had been pretending to be less than they were, and they had done it so well that the entire galaxy was fooled. Across human space, the military mobilization continued. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid bases and deep space facilities moved into active deployment. Soldiers who had been living as civilians reported to their units. Weapons that had been tested in secret were loaded and armed. Kyle Henderson stood on the bridge of the Thunderhead, watching his crew prepare for their next mission. These were people he had known for years. Cargo handlers, engineers, medical staff. Now they worked with military precision, and he realized most of them had been trained soldiers all along. "Captain," his tactical officer said, "we have new orders. We are part of Strike Force 3. Target is a Kreeth military base in the Outer Reach sector." Kyle nodded. The Thunderhead joined a fleet of 200 other human ships. They jumped together, vanishing from Sol System and reappearing deep in Kreeth territory. The Kreeth base detected them immediately and scrambled its defense forces. It did not matter. The human ships came in fast and hard. They used weapons the Kreth had never seen before. Missiles that thought for themselves. Energy beams that bent around obstacles. Drones that attacked in swarms. The Kreth defenses were overwhelmed in minutes. The base fell. The humans destroyed every military installation, but left the civilian areas untouched. They were here to cripple the Kreth military, not to commit genocide. That was important. Humanity wanted to show they were powerful but not evil, dangerous but not monsters. The pattern repeated across Kreth space. Human strike forces appeared without warning, destroyed military targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The Kreth military tried to respond, but they could not predict where the humans would strike next. Their communication networks were jammed. Their sensor grids were blinded. Their fleets were picked apart, piece by piece. Supreme Commander Draxul watched his military collapse in real time. Every hour brought new reports of losses. Bases destroyed. Fleets annihilated. Supply lines cut. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck from unexpected angles with weapons that should not exist. How did we not know? He demanded of his intelligence chief. How did we miss this? The intelligence chief had no good answer. They hid it, sir. The technology, the ships, the training, all hidden. Their civilian population was actually a reserve military force. Their trading posts were actually listening stations. Their merchant fleet was actually a logistics network for warfare. Draxul felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Not for himself, but for his people. The humans were coming, and nothing could stop them. On Earth, General Morrison coordinated the campaign from his command center. Holographic displays showed the entire theater of operations. Every human ship appeared as a blue dot. Every Kreth position appeared as a red one. The blue dots were systematically eliminating the red ones. Status report, he ordered. His chief of staff consulted her data. We have destroyed 60% of the Kreth military. Their main battle fleet is scattered and unable to coordinate. Their production facilities are offline. They still have not managed to damage any of our major assets. Morrison nodded. It was going according to plan. But there was no satisfaction in it. War was necessary, but it was not enjoyable. People were dying. Mostly Kreth, yes, but the weight of it still pressed on him. What about civilian casualties? He asked. Minimal, sir. Our forces are following engagement protocols. We are targeting only military assets. The Kreth civilians are being left alone. That was important. Morrison had made it clear from the beginning. This war was against the Kreth government and military, not the Kreth people. Humanity would show that they could be ruthless to their enemies, but merciful to innocents. It was a message as important as the military victories. The galaxy was watching. They needed to see that humans could wage war effectively while still maintaining their principles. That was what would distinguish humanity from species like the Kreth, who saw conquest as an end in itself. The war continued. Week after week, human forces advanced. The Kreth fell back, trying to establish defensive lines that the humans simply bypassed or overwhelmed. The Kreth High Council began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. They tried to appeal to the Galactic Council. They claimed the humans were committing atrocities. But the Council had observers who reported the truth. The humans were brutal in combat but careful about civilian casualties. They destroyed military targets with precision and left everything else intact. Some species began to quietly admire humanity's effectiveness. Others feared it. A few started to wonder what would happen if they ever crossed humanity in the future. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and everyone could feel it. Nina Torres brought the Valiant home for resupply after 6 weeks of continuous operations. She and her crew had participated in 20 engagements. They had destroyed more than 50 enemy ships. They had not suffered a single casualty. She walked through Earth's orbital station and saw the transformation. Everywhere she looked, there was evidence of military power. Ships being armed, troops being deployed, resources being mobilized. This was not the Earth she had left. This 3 months into the war, the Kreeth sovereignty was broken. Their military had been reduced to scattered defense forces hiding in their core systems. Their economy was in ruins. Their government was divided, with some officials calling for surrender while others insisted on fighting to the last. Supreme Commander Drax Ull sat in his command bunker on Kreeth Prime, staring at maps that showed nothing but defeat. Red markers indicated lost territories. Gray markers showed bases that had gone silent. Only a handful of green markers remained, clustered around the homeworld itself. His communication officer approached nervously. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They are demanding to speak with you directly." Drax Ull wanted to refuse. But what was the point? Pride had brought them to this disaster. More pride would only make things worse. Put it through. The holographic display activated. Admiral Jake Morrison appeared, looking as calm and cold as he had in his first broadcast 3 months ago. Behind him, Drax Ull could see a military command center bustling with activity. The humans were not even breathing hard. This war that had destroyed the Kreeth was routine work for them. "Supreme Commander Drax Ull," Morrison said, "I am contacting you to offer terms." "Terms?" Drax Ull felt a spark of anger. "You mean demands? Call them what you like," Morrison replied. "Here is the situation. Your military is finished. You have perhaps 200 functional warships left, all clustered around your homeworld. We have 3,000 ships in position around Kreeth Prime. We can destroy your remaining forces any time we choose. The only question is whether we will need to bombard your planet afterward." Drax Ull felt cold. "You would commit genocide?" "No." Morrison's expression did not change. "We would target your military installations and government centers. Your civilians would be spared, but millions would still die in the collateral damage. I would prefer to avoid that." "The latter and Eleventy. Then what do you want?" Morrison leaned forward. "Unconditional surrender. Your government will step down. Your military will disarm. You will cede all territories you took from humanity, plus several of your own systems as reparations. You will pay for the cost of this war. And you will accept human observers to ensure compliance." "That is everything," Drax Ull said bitterly. "You are asking us to become a protectorate. I am asking you to accept the consequences of your actions," Morrison replied. "You started this war. You thought humanity was weak, and you could take what you wanted. You were wrong. Now, you pay the price." Drax Ull looked at the map again. He thought about his people, the civilians, who had nothing to do with the military's decisions. He thought about the proud history of the Kreeth, now ending in humiliation. He thought about fighting to the last and taking as many humans with them as possible. But he also thought about the efficiency with which the humans had dismantled his military. If they wanted to, they could kill every Kreeth in the galaxy. They had the power. They simply chose not to use it that way. "I need to consult with the High Council," he said. "You have 6 hours," Morrison told him. "After that, we begin our final assault." The transmission ended. Drax Ull called an emergency meeting of the High Council. The debate was short. Some members wanted to fight to the end, but most recognized the reality. They had lost. Fighting on would only kill more Kreeth for no gain. The vote was close but clear. The Kreeth sovereignty would surrender. Drax Ull sent the message himself. "We accept your terms. The Kreeth sovereignty surrenders unconditionally." Kyle Henderson stood on the bridge of the Thunderhead, watching the Kreeth fleet power down their weapons. It felt strange. For 3 months, he had been hunting and destroying Kreeth ships. Now they were just sitting there, defeated and helpless. "All ships, maintain combat readiness," his tactical officer ordered. This could be a trick, but it was not a trick. The Kreeth were truly beaten. Human Marines boarded their vessels and began the process of disarmament. Kreth officers handed over their command codes without resistance. Some looked angry. Most just looked tired. The war was over. Humanity had won. On Earth, the news was met with celebration. But it was a subdued celebration. People were glad the fighting had stopped. They were proud that humanity had proven its strength. But there was also a sense of loss. 300 years of peaceful coexistence had ended. The galaxy had changed. And not all the changes were good. President Karen Mitchell addressed the people of Earth from the World Council chambers. Today, we have achieved victory over the Kreth sovereignty. They attacked us, believing we were weak. We have shown them the truth. Humanity is not weak. We never were. She paused, looking into the camera. But this victory comes with responsibility. We have revealed our strength to the galaxy. We can never again hide behind the mask of being harmless newcomers. From now on, every species will see us as we truly are. A powerful military force, capable of waging effective warfare. Some will fear us. Some will respect us. Some will seek to test us again in the future. We must be ready for all of these responses. But we must also remember who we are. We are not conquerors. We are not tyrants. We fought this war because we were forced to. Not because we wanted to. Not. We forced. In the coming days, we will work with the Galactic Council to establish a fair peace. The Kreth will pay for what they did, but they will not be destroyed. We will show mercy where it is deserved. We will show that humanity can be both strong and just. The speech was well received. But everyone understood the underlying truth. The galaxy had changed. Humanity's place in it had changed. There was no going back to the way things were before. Ambassador Kelvar traveled to Earth for the first time in his long career. He had been invited to participate in the peace negotiations. The human government wanted Galactic Council involvement to legitimize the process. When his shuttle landed at the orbital station, he was met by a human escort. They were polite, but professional. Gone was the casual friendliness he had grown used to from humans. These people were respectful, but distant. They brought him to the negotiation chamber, where Admiral Morrison and President Mitchell waited. Kelvar studied them carefully. Morrison looked the same as always, stern and military. Mitchell seemed tired but determined. Ambassador Kelvar, Mitchell said, "Thank you for coming. We value the Council's input on the peace terms." "I am honored to be included," Kelvar replied. "Though I confess, I am still processing what has happened. Humanity revealed capabilities that no one suspected. How long were you hiding this strength?" Quote, Morrison answered, "Since before we joined the galactic community. When we made first contact 300 years ago, we had already fought several wars among ourselves. We knew what we were capable of. We decided to hide most of it and present ourselves as peaceful traders and explorers." "Why?" Kelvar asked. "Why not show your strength from the beginning?" "Because we wanted peace," Mitchell said simply. "We wanted to be part of the galactic community, not conquer it. We thought if we came in as obvious military power, we would be seen as a threat. So we hid our weapons and showed our scientists and merchants instead. We hoped we would never need the weapons," Morrison added. "We hoped that by building friendships and trade relationships, we could secure our place through cooperation. For 3 centuries, it worked. Until the Kreth," Kelvar said. "Until the Kreth," Mitchell agreed. "They saw our friendliness as weakness. They attacked, thinking we could not respond. They were wrong." Kelvar nodded slowly. "The galaxy is afraid of you now." "We know," Morrison said. "That fear is unavoidable, but we will work to show that while we are strong, we are not aggressive. This war was defensive. We did not seek conquest. We only wanted to stop those who threatened us." The peace negotiations took 2 weeks. The terms were harsh, but not cruel. The Kreth lost the territory they had seized, plus 3 systems that would be held by humanity for 50 years as security. They would pay reparations equal to the cost of the war. Their military would be limited to defensive forces only. Human observers would monitor compliance for 20 years, but the Kreth people would not be enslaved or oppressed. Their government could rebuild, though under new leadership. Their economy would be supported to prevent collapse. Humanitarian aid would be provided to help civilians recover. It was a victor's peace, but not a vindictive one. Humanity wanted to show they could be stern, but fair. They wanted the galaxy to understand that humans would defend themselves fiercely but would not become tyrants. The Galactic Council voted to approve the peace terms. Most species voted in favor. A few abstained. None voted against. No one wanted to be seen opposing humanity when they were at the height of their power. Nina Torres attended the signing ceremony. She stood in her dress uniform, representing the military forces that had won the war. Next to her stood Kyle Henderson and thousands of other officers and crew members. They watched as Kreth officials signed the surrender documents. It should have felt triumphant. But mostly Nina just felt tired. She had spent 3 months in combat. She had killed more enemy ships than she could count. She had done her duty, and done it well. But there was no joy in it. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" Kyle said quietly. "We won, but it does not feel like winning." "No," Nina agreed. "It feels like the end of something. The galaxy was one way before this war. Now it is different." Better or worse?" Nina thought about that. "Different. Not better or worse. Just different. We proved we can fight. Now we have to prove we can be trusted with that power." The ceremony ended. The peace was official. The Kreth sovereignty had fallen, and a new order was beginning to take shape. Humanity was no longer the friendly newcomers, trying to earn a place at the table. They were now one of the great powers, respected and feared in equal measure. Back on Earth, people began to adjust to this new reality. The military remained on high alert, but combat operations ceased. Soldiers began returning home. Ships were pulled back to defensive positions. The war economy started to transition back to peace. But everyone knew things had changed forever. The mask was off. The secret was revealed. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they could do when pushed too far. Admiral Morrison gave one final address to his military forces. "You have served with honor and skill. You have protected humanity when we were threatened. You have shown the galaxy that we are not to be trifled with. But now comes the harder task." He looked at the assembled officers and crew members. "Now, we must show the galaxy that we can be trusted. That our strength will be used for protection, not aggression. That we can be powerful without being cruel. The easy part is over. We won the war. Now we must win the peace." The message resonated. Humans understood that they had crossed a line. There was no going back to the innocent days of being the galaxy's friendly merchants. They were now a military power. And that came with responsibilities they could not escape. But they also understood that they had done what was necessary. The Kreth had forced this war. Humanity had simply responded. And in responding, they had secured their survival and their place in the galaxy. 6 months after the war ended, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. Trade routes reopened, diplomatic relationships resumed. Life went on. But nothing was quite the same as it had been before. Kyle Henderson sat in a bar on Vryn Station, drinking something the locals called fire wine. His ship, the Thunderhead, was docked for routine maintenance. He was technically still in the military reserve, but for now he was back to flying cargo runs. Peaceful work, though now everyone knew it could change at any moment. A Vryn trader named Sixal sat down next to him. They had done business together before the war. "Henderson," Sixal said carefully, "it is good to see you back." End quote. Good to be back, Kyle replied. How is business? Improving, slowly. Sixel paused. Many were afraid to trade with humans after the war. They feared you would be too aggressive, too demanding. And now? Now they see you are the same as before. You bargain hard but fair. You honor contracts. You pay on time. Sixal tilted his head. But they also remember what you did to the Kreth, so they are very careful not to cheat you. Kyle smiled slightly. Is that such a bad thing? No, Sixel admitted. It is just different. Before, some species thought they could take advantage of human friendliness. Now everyone knows better. That was the new reality. Humans were still friendly, still willing to trade and cooperate. But now, everyone understood there were limits. Push too far, and humanity would push back harder. On Earth, Nina Torres had returned to a hero's welcome. She had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Home Defense Fleet. It was a prestigious position, but it came with pressure. Everyone expected her to be ready for the next threat. Whenever it came, she stood in her office, looking out at the orbital defense platforms. They were no longer hidden. The weapons were visible, a clear statement of capability. Humanity was not going to pretend to be weak anymore. Her assistant brought in the daily intelligence report. Nina scanned it quickly. Nothing urgent. The Kreth were complying with the peace terms. No other species showed signs of aggression. The galaxy was quiet, but Nina knew that quiet could be deceptive. Humanity had learned that lesson well. They had been quiet for just a few weeks, and in that silence, they had prepared for war. Other species might do the same. Schedule increased readiness drills, she ordered. I want every ship and every crew ready to deploy on short notice. Yes, Admiral. Nina returned to her paperwork. This was the burden of victory. Humanity had proven their strength, but now they had to maintain it. Forever vigilant. Forever ready. It was exhausting, but it was necessary. At the Galactic Council, Ambassador Kelvar prepared for a historic vote. Before the war, such a request would have been rejected. Humanity was too young, too new, too unproven. Now it was different. Humanity had proven they were a major power. They deserved a voice in galactic affairs. But more importantly, the other species wanted humanity inside the system, bound by council rules and traditions. Better to have the humans as partners than as wildcards. The vote was not unanimous, but it passed easily. Humanity would have a permanent seat, equal to the Vryn, the Threen, and the other elder species. President Karen Mitchell would be the first human to hold the position. Mitchell stood before the council to give her acceptance speech. She looked out at the assembled representatives, beings from 100 different species, all watching her carefully. I accept this seat with gratitude and humility, she began. Humanity did not seek to become a great power through conquest or intimidation. We sought only to defend ourselves when threatened. But in defending ourselves, we revealed capabilities that have changed how the galaxy sees us. I understand the fear some of you feel. You worry that humanity will become aggressive, that we will use our strength to dominate others. I cannot promise that will never happen. No species can make such a promise. But I can promise that we will try to be worthy of the trust you place in us. We will work for peace, but we will not accept being victimized in the name of peace. We will cooperate with other species, but we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of. We will be good neighbors, but we will be strong neighbors. The speech was well received. Most species appreciated Mitchell's honesty. She was not promising that humanity would be harmless. She was promising that humanity would be fair. That was all anyone could reasonably expect. Back on Vryn Station, Trade Envoy Zixrath met with a human diplomat named Patricia. She was the same woman who had brought him coffee before the war. She had disappeared during the human withdrawal, and he had not seen her since. I am glad you are back, Zixrath said. I missed our conversations. Patricia smiled. I missed them too. I am sorry for leaving without explanation. You were following orders. Yes. Orders I did not fully understand at the time. Patricia poured coffee for both of them. We were all recalled so suddenly. We did not know war was coming. We just knew something had changed. The quiet, Zixrath said. That was the most frightening part. Not knowing what you were planning. Patricia nodded. That was intentional. My government wanted the galaxy off balance. Uncertain. It was psychological warfare before the shooting started. It worked, Zixrath admitted. Many species were terrified. When you finally struck, it was almost a relief. At least then we knew what was happening. They talked for an hour, rebuilding the friendship that had been interrupted by war. It was not quite the same as before. There was a new wariness, a new respect, but it was still genuine. That was happening across the galaxy. Humans and aliens were reconnecting, finding ways to work together in this new reality. It was awkward at first, but gradually it became easier. The war was becoming history, and everyone was moving forward. On Kreth Prime, the rebuilding continued. The planet had not been bombed, but the economic damage was severe. Factories were idle. Trade was minimal. People struggled to find work. A human aid ship arrived in orbit. It carried food, medical supplies, and industrial equipment. The new Kreth government had requested help, swallowing their pride because their people were suffering. The aid was delivered without conditions or demands. Humanity wanted to show that they were not vindictive. The war had been about stopping aggression, not destroying the Kreth people. Former Supreme Commander Draxul watched the human ship from his small apartment. He had been removed from power and put on trial for starting the war. His sentence was exile, not execution. The new government wanted to move forward, not dwell on revenge. He felt bitter watching the humans help his people. It should have been the Kreth providing aid, not receiving it. But he also understood that his pride had caused this disaster. He had believed humans were weak and had led his people into a war they could not win. The lesson was learned. Not just by him, but by the entire Kreth civilization. Never underestimate another species. Never mistake friendliness for weakness. And never start a war you are not certain you can win. Years passed. The galaxy adjusted to the new order. Humanity became more integrated into galactic politics. They joined existing alliances, formed new ones, and used their power to prevent conflicts before they started. There were still disputes. Trade disagreements, territorial arguments, cultural misunderstandings. But everyone was more careful now. No one wanted to push humanity too far. No one wanted to be the next Kreth. Kyle Henderson eventually retired from active military service and became a full-time merchant again. He flew his routes, traded his goods, and lived a peaceful life. But he kept his military training current, and his ship could be converted to combat configuration in a few hours if needed. Nina Torres served as Admiral of Earth Defense for 20 years before retiring. She had overseen a period of unprecedented military development. Humanity's fleet grew larger and more advanced. Defense platforms multiplied. Training standards increased. But she also oversaw a period of peace. No major wars. No serious threats. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity had proven it could be trusted with power. On her retirement day, she gave a speech to the officers who would continue her work. We fought one war. We won it decisively. But our greatest victory was what came after. We showed that we could be strong without being cruel, that we could defend ourselves without becoming tyrants. That is the balance you must maintain. Be ready for war, but work for peace. Be capable of violence, but choose restraint. Be respected for your strength, but also for your wisdom. The day we went quiet was the day we chose to be heard through action, not words. We made a statement that no one will forget. Now make sure the galaxy remembers all parts of that statement. Not just that we can fight, but that we choose not to unless we must. The officers took her words to heart. They understood that humanity's reputation was built on two things: the capability to wage war effectively, and the wisdom to wage it only when necessary. Ambassador Kelvar also retired around this time. He had served on the Galactic Council for 60 years, longer than any human had been part of galactic society. He had seen humanity arrive as curious newcomers. He had seen them transform into a major power. He had seen the galaxy change because of them. In his final speech to the Council, he reflected on what humanity had taught the galaxy. We elder species thought we knew everything. We had thousands of years of history. We had ancient wisdom. We had seen countless species rise and fall. Then humanity arrived, loud and friendly and eager. We patronized them. We tolerated them. We thought we understood them. We were wrong. Humanity taught us that youth is not the same as weakness, that friendliness is not the same as naivety, that a desire for peace is not an inability to wage war. The day the humans went quiet, they were making a decision. Not whether to fight, but how to fight. And when they emerged from that silence, they changed the galaxy forever. Some say humanity grew up during that war. I disagree. Humanity was always mature. They simply stopped letting us treat them as children. His words were recorded in the Council archives. Future generations would study them, trying to understand this pivotal moment in galactic history. On Earth, in the Grand Capitol building, a memorial was built. It honored those who had served in the war against the Kreth. The names of every soldier, every pilot, every crew member were carved into black stone. Not many had died. Humanity's military efficiency had kept casualties low, but each loss was remembered. President Mitchell, now old and preparing to retire herself, attended the dedication ceremony. She stood before the memorial and spoke to the assembled crowd. We did not want this war. We tried for 300 years to avoid it. But when it came, we were ready. We fought with honor. We won with mercy. And we built a peace that has lasted. Let this memorial remind us of what we are capable of, both the good and the terrible. Let it remind us to choose the good whenever possible, but to be ready for the terrible when we must. The day we went quiet was the day we stopped trying to be liked and decided to be respected. That decision defined our place in the galaxy. May we never forget the price of that choice, and may we always use our power wisely. The crowd was silent as her words echoed across the plaza. Then, slowly, they began to applaud. Not in celebration, but in acknowledgement. They understood what she meant. Power was a responsibility, not a trophy. The galaxy moved on. New generations were born who had never known the time before humanity's revelation. To them, humans being a major military power was normal. They grew up in a galaxy where humanity was respected and feared, where human ships patrolled the trade lanes, where human diplomats had real influence. But the older generations remembered. They remembered the friendly humans who seemed so eager to please. They remembered the shock of discovery when humanity revealed their true capabilities. They remembered the war that followed, and they made sure the younger generations understood. Never underestimate a species that chooses to be peaceful. That choice can be unmade. In the archives of a dozen species, historians recorded the events of this period. They debated the causes and consequences. They analyzed the military strategy and political maneuvering. They tried to extract lessons that might prevent future wars, but one fact was undeniable across all the different interpretations. The day the humans went quiet was the day the galaxy changed. What had been a collection of elder species condescending to a young race became a community of equals, held together by mutual respect, backed by mutual capability. The humans had trembled the stars not through conquest, but through revelation. They had shown that beneath the friendly exterior was a species forged in the hardest conditions, tempered by thousands of years of warfare, and capable of incredible ferocity when provoked. And having shown this, They had then chosen to put that ferocity away and return to cooperation. That choice, more than the military victory itself, defined humanity's place in the galaxy. They could be dangerous. They chose to be peaceful. But everyone remembered that the choice was theirs to make. The silence had ended. The war had ended. But the message echoed through the centuries that followed. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Not because they were cruel or aggressive, but because they were strong and willing to fight when necessary. That knowledge, shared by every species in the galaxy, became the foundation of a new peace. A peace built not on naive optimism, but on realistic understanding. A peace where respect was earned through demonstration, not assumed through goodwill. The stars had trembled. Now, they were steady again, held in balance by species who understood each other better than before. The galaxy was not perfect, but it was stable, and humanity, no longer the loud newcomers trying to prove themselves, had finally found their place. Not through being liked, but through being respected. That was worth the price they had paid. The stars had trembled when humanity went to war. Now they would have to adjust to a galaxy where humanity was strong, visible, and ready to defend itself. It was a new age, born in fire and blood. But it was also a chance to build something better. A galaxy where humanity was respected not just for their friendliness, but for their strength. Where peace was maintained not just through goodwill, but through the knowledge that attacking humanity would bring swift and overwhelming response. The war was over. The peace was beginning. And humanity stood ready to face whatever came next. Was a civilization at war, but it was also a civilization that knew what it was fighting for. Not conquest, not glory, but survival and respect. Humanity would finish this war, and then they would return to peace. But it would be a different kind of peace, one based on strength, not just goodwill. The message was clear. Humanity had been quiet for a reason. They had been deciding. And now, the decision was made. The stars trembled because they finally understood what should have been obvious from the start. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply been choosing to be gentle. That choice was over. Force. Their target was the Kreeth fleet currently looting human stations near Neptune. They would jump in, destroy the enemy, and jump out before anyone could respond. Remember, Morrison told his commanders, we are not just fighting a battle. We are sending a message. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity is done being pushed around. Show them what we can do. 48 hours passed. The Kreeth continued their looting, unaware. The Galactic Council waited nervously for humanity's response, expecting perhaps a diplomatic protest. And then, exactly on schedule, Operation Thunderstrike began. Space itself tore open, and human warships poured through. Alien observer had ever seen. Humanity was gathering its strength, and in the silence, as the other species of the galaxy wondered and worried, the humans made their choice. They had been patient. They had been friendly. They had accepted being treated as the newcomers, the junior partners in galactic civilization. That time was over. The quiet would not last forever. When it ended, the galaxy would learn what humanity had been hiding behind all that friendly chatter. They would learn that humans could be something other than loud merchants and eager explorers. They would learn what 300 years of restrained power looked like when finally unleashed. But for now, the humans stayed silent. And the stars, if they had been paying attention, would have noticed the quiet gathering of a storm.